I hate to break up the chatter because it's so lovely when everybody is having a chat and grabbing a cup of coffee and something to eat, but if you can please just slowly make your way to your seat so that we can get the meeting started, because this is the first meeting this year where we're aiming to finish at 9 so that everybody's got a chance after the meeting to continue socialising. So if you don't mind just taking your seats. What is it, Aphrodite? What have you done to them? They're having coffees. Well, good evening everybody and welcome along to the first meeting of 2025. I would say Happy New Year, but given that we're already on the 10th of February, that seems a bit odd to say that. But welcome back anyway. I trust that you all had a good Christmas break and that January has been kind to you. It's certainly not been kind to the bees. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Monica. Everyone calls me Mon, and I am the president of the society this year, so welcome along. Can I just see by show of hands, is there anyone here for the very first time tonight? Welcome. Oh, there's quite a few. So please take note that we've got some new people in the room. Make sure you introduce yourself and get around to have a chat with our new beekeepers. So, as I mentioned before, this is the first night where the management committee made a commitment that we're going to keep our meetings shorter to enable more time for socialisation and networking, because in the previous 2 surveys, that was what you said, why you came to these meetings. One of the reasons was for networking. I do just want to remind you to please make sure that you have registered and ticked your name off on the attendance list at the back, and grabbed a name tag if there is one for you. And also, can I just hear, for the purpose of the minutes tonight, are there any apologies that need to be noted? Just shout them out nice and loud. There's someone there? Jay Dunning. So you've got that, Kat? Jay Dunning. Anyone else? Okay, no other. Okay, we'll just move on straight from there. Now, we are in a very privileged position this evening to have a guest speaker who is very much in demand at the moment. So Josh D'Ambrosio is one of our Varroa development officers in South Australia, and in fact tonight we have Josh and David. I'm just going to ask them both to just stand up so you see who they are. They are 2 of the 3 Varroa development officers in South Australia, and Josh tonight is going to be our guest speaker. I want to just tell you a little bit about Josh. He's a 4th generation beekeeper with an extensive background in addressing complex environmental challenges with a strategic solution-driven approach. You'll have to ask him about that, it's very cryptic. In his family-run apiary business, he managed both urban and rural beehives and led numerous environmental initiatives. This work deepened his passion for sustainability, natural resource management, and environmental preservation. So the Varroa Development Officer role was a logical progression in Josh's career, and he now channels those passions into supporting both recreational and commercial beekeepers to enhance their knowledge and skills in managing the Varroa mite. Well, in South Australia we don't have to manage it yet, but in building our knowledge, certainly. Josh will be speaking to us tonight about the current Varroa mite situation and the spread, how it is spreading, the importance of integrated pest management as part of a Varroa management plan, and he will also be giving us more information about important work that's going on in the country, including the Baseline Virus Project, the Sentinel Hive Network, and the COLOS survey. That's just a little bit of a taste of what Josh is going to be talking to us about. I've had the privilege of working with Josh quite a bit, and he is a very accomplished speaker, and I'm sure that you are going to be hanging on to his words. So please welcome Josh to the stage.
What about now? Here we go. Hey, how are we all? Good, very good. All right, big boots to fill there. Thank you, Mon. Is this going to work for us? Perfect. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for having both myself and Davide here tonight. It's our pleasure to come along and share with you a little about what we're doing as Varroa development officers across the state, and a little bit about what's happening out there with Varroa and helping your preparedness for the impending arrival. So, we have 30 minutes, I believe. So I'm going to need to move relatively quickly. If I start blah, 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 just give me the hurry up. We've got a heckler up the front, Davide, he's on to me already. So without further ado, let's get moving. All right, here we go. So as Mon graciously introduced myself, so thank you. Yes, that's a bit about me. Simpler, I'm just a beekeeper. I love bees, and I'm privileged to be in this role, helping out our industry as a whole. So that's me. But enjoying it. It's a challenge, and we're learning absolutely every day, which is fantastic. As well as Davide here, so my colleague, partner in crime. So he's going to be helping us out and just managing and heckling and things like that. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, please reach out and ask us. So as far as tonight, we had a couple of forms, paperwork on the front entrance when you came in. First was an updated chemical table. Don't all throw tomatoes at me when I say the word chemicals, but that's there. I hope everyone has got a copy. We will be referencing this later, as well as there is the National Baseline Virus Project flyer as well, an expression of interest which we'll talk more about. And we've got some familiar faces in the room which we've actually been working with already over the last few weeks with Baseline. So you've got those two forms there. So please take them, have a read of them. We'll come back to them in a second. Question time, I will ask, please hold your questions until the end of the session, purely because we are a little tight for time. We don't want to get bogged down too much. So hold your questions. We will have 15 minutes or so at the end to answer as best as you can. And I'll be sticking around for the night, so you can come and grab me a little later. Okay, well, the second bit is the second part presentation. I don't know how this works. Yes, this is a two-part presentation. We're not going to get through all of it tonight, so it just means that we need to come back and build on from it. But what we will do tonight as part of the presentation is really build your a bit of your knowledge and the preparation for part two, where we're going to sort of more management plans and different treatment plans that we can look at for our individual operations. So, a little bit about PIRSA. We all know about PIRSA. I will flick through some of these slides because we'll get to them later. But in short, Varroa development officers. Basically, we are here to help you. We're here to build the industry's preparedness for Varroa. We are available to come out to groups, as we're doing tonight. Also, smaller groups. So if you've got a mentoring group, I know I've been talking with Adrian. Is Adrian here tonight? Yes, we've been discussing getting out there, which we've yet to do, but if you have a small group that would like to get together and have a VDO along, or you'd like us to come out to your beehives, we are around to do so. So reach out. We're here to help. One note, we are not compliance, so we're not going to turn up and start, you haven't got your letters big enough and things. No, we're just there to talk Varroa and help you prepare yourselves. So note that one. Cool. So tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to do a little brief introduction to Varroa. Now, hands up who have been to a Varroa workshop, one of our national. Brilliant. Okay, that's going to really give yourselves the best opportunity of moving through this quickly and having a good understanding. We'll just do a recap. We're then going to look at the current spread, and we have a couple of case studies. And the idea of the case studies, it is anecdotal evidence, so it's based on what we're hearing from the front line in New South Wales and Victoria. We can share some of that information with you tonight. and it's about just giving you an idea of things to expect when Varroa does arrive. We'll review monitoring of Varroa, and we had a bit of a chat with Bob earlier about how the BSSA is managing their monitoring, and they're standardising their methods to keep it consistent, and you're going to become experts in that specific way of monitoring, which is fantastic. Something that we work through in the national program, where we say pick one monitoring technique and stick with it, become an expert in it. So I hear you're doing that, which is tops. We'll look about what we're doing as BDOs around the state. We'll look at how you can be involved and how you can help the transition to management program as well. We'll talk through a bit about support. So what is available for you, not only as people, but also beekeepers, as also within your businesses if you've got a business within the industry, whether it be small honey sales at the post office or your friends and family, to larger operations and so forth. So we'll talk about that. Part 2 is really going to delve deeper into the integrated pest management, where we start looking at ways to reduce mite load and ways to delay the need for chemicals. So we'll talk about integrated pest management, and then finally developing management and treatment plans. We'll touch on it tonight, but we just simply won't have enough time. So we'll keep that for next time, and something for you to think about, and maybe have a little bit of homework to do. All right, so Varroa mite, real quick. Parasitic mite, Varroa destructor, arrived 2022, established now in New South Wales, and has spread now into Victoria. Requires management. Without management, we will see colony collapse and decline. Integrated pest management, including miticides, is treatment and a way of managing. Symptoms: the mites are present on the bees. They're in the brood. You can then get parasitic mite syndrome. Notifiable, yes it is. So, who knows what notifiable means? Have to report it. Fantastic. Okay. So, in line with a number of other pests and diseases we have in South Australia, or we don't have yet, or we don't have at all, hopefully, fingers crossed, touch wood, it is notifiable. So if you identify it or you suspect it, okay, it's notifiable. So if you're doing out your monitoring and you think you may have seen something, definitely give us a ring, and we can pop out and double check, triple check, and make sure everything's in line with where it should be, or provide you with some assistance.
We'd like to introduce you to the Varroa mite. Well, to be precise, we'd like to introduce you to millions of Varroa mites. Why so many? Well, when it comes to the Varroa mite, there's no such thing as just one. And if you'd like to see how its infestation starts, you need to look no further than your own bees, especially drones, as they're pretty social and like to travel between hives. Since Varroa mites don't have any wings of their own, they slip into hives by hitching a ride on the backs of adult bees. And for the lucky mite, the trip as Varroa mites will begin feeding on honeybees' fat body tissue within a few minutes of clinging to the bee. Once they've entered the hive, Varroa mites slip undetected into the vulnerable, uncapped brood cells. This is where the mites lay in wait until the bees cap the brood. Once a cell is capped, the mother mite, like a tiny spider, climbs atop the cocoon of the developing bee, tears open a hole, and begins to feed on its fat body tissue. Within 3 days, the mother mite lays her first egg, which always develops into a male. Then, she lays one female egg every 30 hours over the next week or so in her newly acquired home under the cap. And as each of these female mites mature, they mate with their brother. By the time the baby bee develops and leaves its infested cell, as many as 3 fertilized mites will emerge with it, and the cycle continues.
Okay. So we would have seen this during the national workshop. There we go. And we'll come back to that shortly. But to give you a quick idea of an overview of the Varroa mite spread. So 1904, identified originally in Java. 1953, reported in Soviet Russia. Then it moved into Philippines, China, India, Japan. Late 60s into Europe and Western Europe. 70s into Latin America. 1987, discovered in the USA, 1992 in the UK, and then in 2000 it was identified in Auckland, New Zealand, and then 2022 identified in New South Wales. So it is on the run, it's on the spread, and we were hoping it would stay out, but it didn't, and here we are today. So there are two phases when this mite comes in, and we'll review this very quickly, both a build-up and establishment phase. Now, it means basically the mite is spreading geographically across the country. It's spreading, populations are unstable. Okay, we've got feral wild colonies as well, which it's infesting. And those hives are re-invading other hives, and it's just building up popularity. Very, very unstable phase. This is the phase that is some of the most volatile as we see this building through. So in this stage, it's important for us to think about now about adult mites are capable of living up to 5 days without a host. So this is very, thought-provoking in the sense of how does it travel across the country. When a car is driving on the road and flies into a bee, that bee lands on the radiator, continues down the highway. How long does it take to get from point A to point B across the country? The mites can still remain alive. And then when it arrives into its destination, the car stops, the bee falls out of the radiator with the varroa mite, and then another bee comes along or washes down the river. So all these variables. So this is the way it's one way it's spreading. Bees are drifting. Forager bees are encountering one another while they're out and about. And this later down the track, when we start talking about the ways it's spreading, is shared resources are a real critical point where we're monitoring now. In even apiaries, shared water sources are a big point of that mite transmission from one bee to the other. Floral resources as well. Then we get into the establishment phase. Now this is later on the track. Varroa becomes widespread. Populations begin to stabilise. And notice I say begin, they're not stable yet. And the reinfestation reduces we see those decline in the feral colonies. So this stage here, we're hearing reports that some areas within New South Wales are starting to feel this. They're starting to reach a certain point of establishment. But it's taken 3.5 to 4 years to get to that point. Symptoms, I'll fly through this. Weight reduction, flight performance is down, group down, lifespan is down, cognition is down, absences are up, so you don't get as many bees returning to the hive. Illnesses and deformities, viruses are present. Now recently, some of you may have heard we had a detection of the deformed wing virus out of WA in Apis florea, which is a small honeybee. We're still hearing bits and pieces coming out of that, which is pretty concerning, but we'll keep hearing and listening and seeing what comes out and develops. Ultimately, at the end, if it's unmanaged, untreated, colony decline and death. Low infestation rates, very, very hard to depict. You may not notice varroa for some time, but then all of a sudden you may have this very much large increase. We'll come to this in a minute as well. Yeah, we'll go to that. As far as, back. There we go. Impacts to the keeper. So we've looked at some impacts to bees. Now we need to look at from ourselves as beekeepers and our businesses. So we will experience some production loss, okay? Evidence is telling us we will see a production loss. That percentage, that rate of loss is still very much an unknown. There's all sorts of numbers being thrown around, 30% down, 40% down. Nothing compares to the current season. I think we're at about 90% down. It's a concerning time, but let's stay strong, work together. Increase in operational tasks. So your required labour output is going to be greater. You will be doing more hive inspections, okay, specifically with monitoring, surveillance. Now, surveillance and monitoring. Really at the moment we're in the surveillance stage. We have not yet identified varroa, so we're surveillance, we're watching. But then once we identify varroa in the region, we're then switching more to a monitoring point of view. For this case, for this sort of circumstances, we refer it to monitoring. So monitoring is basically the same as surveillance when we start talking our washing, our soapy water wash, alcohol or sugar shake. And then also treatment costs are going to be greater, increasing operational costs, plant and equipment, and nutrients. One thing we're seeing now, and it's very, very important that we start thinking about this now, not when Varroa arrives, is we need to be building nutrients in our bees. We want the healthiest, the strongest bees we can possibly produce. So that means that when we come into even times when there is some food about, looking at supplementing their feed, boosting their nutrition. All right? And evidence shows, particularly in some of these areas where Varroa is, if you can have nice, healthy, strong bees, rich in nutrients, they're going to do, in most cases, better than those bees that are struggling nutritionally or a little malnourished. So think about what you can do now to start boosting and becoming, having a sort of a standard process in your beekeeping to keep your bees nutritionally, well looked after. Support. So basically there are a range of different support opportunities. So farm business resilience workshops is something that we've just been running through PERSA. And they're basically a workshop to help with business support. So learning a little bit more about planning within the business, how you can make the most of your business, looking at opportunities where you haven't necessarily taken up, but then you can pivot to those, as well as just providing some additional support and guidance through business. We ran 2 pilot programs. They were hugely successful. I know a number of people in the room attended. So we are looking now at doing some more programs like this. Okay? So these programs will be available and open for expression of interest very soon. All you need to have to be able to apply for one of these is an ABN. Okay? So it's not just designed for large operational apiary businesses. Okay? It can be a smaller micro businesses. As long as you've got an ABN, you can join in. All right? So think about that one. And then Fab Mentors. So Fab Mentors are a third-party, basically, well-being support through PERSA. They can offer some mental health assistance. They can also offer some business or personal financial assistance as well, and advice. So please, if you do feel like you would like some support, reach out. Everything's kept confidential from a Fab Mentors point of view. If you want some further information, come and see us, or simply go to the PERSA website and you'll be able to search and Google Fab Mentors. Okay, so current spread. November 24, it was detected in Hatta. Okay, so this is Hatta over here on the Victoria up here, just below Mildura. It was earlier detected in Mildura, and then the most recent was down in Hatta, down here. Not far at all. In January, not long ago, it was found 5 kilometres south of Queensland border, not far from them either. So they're on high alert, they're monitoring, their surveillance has increased. Now in January 25, the Hatta mite population was identified that it had increased significantly. Beehives experiencing high infestation rates across this apiary. This apiary specifically has a number of beehives on site. It's spread out across a couple of different apiaries, sort of beehive areas, with some distances apart. When they initially identified, they actually did an alcohol wash. The beekeeper suspected he had some concerns. He thought something was going on. He contacted the Victorian VDOs. They came out, and that's one of the things we're doing in a sense of we're ground zero. If a beekeeper has concerns, we're one of the first to get on site and help out. So the VDOs arrived. They did some washes of the sites. Couldn't find anything. Did some other washes. And then thought, you know what we're going to do is we're going to do this alcohol wash. We haven't got Varroa, but we're actually going to do a double test of straining the liquid out, okay, through a strainer into a container to look. And in that process, they identified 1 Varroa mite. From there, they started to investigate a little bit further and found a few more, and they immediately treated. And they put a surveillance treatment in, which is an overnight treatment, basically just to see the mite load, and they used Baverol for that one. Okay, and sticky mats. They came back the next morning and identified the mite drop, and they had a few mites drop out of that. So they went through and did some further monitoring, treatment, got it to a point where, okay, we're below threshold now, keep going. Now, in January, so not long ago, a few weeks ago, they went back and they identified in some more washes that their mite load had increased. Now they were seeing 30 odd mites in a wash. Okay, so again, they were like, all right, we need to go in and we need to identify what's happening, we need to put a treatment in. And they did again the sticky mat test. Okay, so sticky mats underneath during the first 72 hours of a treatment to identify mite drop in that initial treatment shock. Pulled out the mats, 500 mites on the mat. Okay, and this was happening over a number of beehives. So that was an indication straight away, okay, mites are in this area, they now are infesting and invading these hives, and the mite population is growing. So that's consistently happening now there. They're monitoring again closely, and there's a treatment schedule happening on those hives. So it's happening, it's quickly, and now we know that there are mites in the environment. Currently, varroa mite has not yet been detected in South Australia. This does not mean that it is not here. So the point I'm making here is the fact that we need to surveillance and monitor. We need to be looking. So hands up in the room, who has been monitoring? Not bad, okay. Very good, keep at it. If you didn't raise your hand, that's okay. Now you know to get back and start monitoring, all right? So removal of control orders empowers you to start making decisions for yourselves when you identify varroa. It's critical we really empower ourselves now and prepare now. We're in such a lucky position that we haven't identified it. Majority of you have already confirmed that you don't have varroa in your apiaries. It means now is the time to plan. We are actively out there and we'll talk more about that shortly. You've all seen the heat map? Yes. We don't have an SA heat map right now, but we will be getting one, I've been told. It's coming soon. We're actually in discussions now with our Persa tech gurus, and they're looking at putting some things together for getting this up and running pretty soon. So keep your eyes out. We will notify you. You will definitely hear with the BSSA updates and newsletters that it's there. This is where you're going to be able to report your positive and negative results, and that way you can jump in and you can see. But the big thing about the heat map is this is beekeeper driven. If you don't complete the information and report on the heat map, no information will be there. Right, so this is one thing that we need to, as an industry, we really need to collaborate on and really all work together to get this data in. It's going to help us, it's going to give us a little bit of an idea of where things are travelling. Okay, so moving on to some more anecdotal evidence. As I mentioned, be cautious with anecdotal evidence. It hasn't gone through stringent testing, data analysis. It's more just about what's being seen, things to look out for, things that may help you identify varroa, and things particularly to just be mindful of that this is what's happened elsewhere. It may happen. Every situation is different. Cool. All right. So worst case scenarios. Sydney-based beekeeper monitoring regularly for varroa, treating at their recommended thresholds. Initial detection, 7 hives in total, 6 were below, 1 was above. Initial Bayvarroa for 8-week treatment. And again, all these treatment numbers and the duration is all on that chemical data sheet, so you can have a look at that. Post-treatment monitoring results were below threshold, so the treatment worked. Okay, it did its job. But then 4 weeks later, 20 to 30 mites were found again. Reinvasion. Okay, treated 10 to 15 mites found again 4 weeks later. Treatment of Apiguard. This just says to us that during this establishment, this build-up stage, high reinvasion and the need to consistently treat sequentially, back to back. Okay, obviously being mindful of your duration of your withholding periods and so forth, but high density of bees in areas. So that's really Adelaide, right? We have huge density of bees, so be mindful you're going to have reinvasion. Case study 2, beekeeper, 2 hives. Alcohol washes about every 16 weeks. Okay. Monitoring, this was last year, so late April, no mites were detected. Early July, both hives were dead. Okay, this is one of the quickest cases that we've seen across the nation as far as the videos have been actively involved in. High density of bees. This is really where we started to go, you know what, 16 weeks is too long. We need to now monitor once we identify bees in mite in an area every 3 to 4 weeks. This was really what started that. Here's another one. Did not monitor in varroa dense area. Basically noticed bees crawling on the ground, so that's something to think about. If you start seeing bees crawling on the ground. Impact on colony health observed, treated behavioral. Unfortunately, the colonies did not survive. Okay. But if the beekeeper monitored more regularly, okay, sooner, they may have been able to stop it in its tracks. Moving into case study 3, this is evidence of parasitic mite syndrome. So this is the term, the balloon term we use for when mites start impacting the colony. Very similar to AFB, EFB and sac brood. Okay? So the ejected dead pupae, adult workers crawling on the ground. And this is where the bees have actually removed those pupae. They brought them out of the hive because they were causing issues. Open perforated cappings. You can see some up here. So this is something you can look at now. And actually, we've seen more of it most recently than we've ever seen previously in the past. And we're thinking it might be from malnourishment. Okay, some of our bees being malnourished because of the season, where they're starting to open up those cells and have a look what's inside. And it's a way of basically hygienic behaviour, but not related to varroa specifically, just more keeping that hive nice and clean. Things like scales or brown and sunken larvae, also signs. Okay, so keep looking at your brood as carefully as possible. Take your time in these inspections. Sunken twisted larvae, looks like EFB. You'll notice here that the larvae isn't nice, uniform, nice and curled up down the bottom there. They're a bit twisted. Quite often you'll see the tongue of the bee is coming out as well. That's a sign that there's something going on that you need to investigate a little further. Patchy brood, okay, spotty brood pattern. So things to think about and look at when you're going through your brood inspections. Varroa frass, this is underneath in the cells. You can see the frass around here, inside. A little bit hard to see. If you want a closer look, we can show you Varroa in adult bees and Varroa in brood. So monitoring, we're going to fly through this. Who's coming to the field day this Saturday? We've got 2 field days, the morning session and the afternoon session. We're going to be there. Okay, myself, Davide and Aaron, we're going to be running you through lots of monitoring. Okay, so look at that. Also jump on varroa.org.au. It's got all the links to the monitoring videos and the various washing techniques. I'm going to fly through this, but critical early detection. This is us down on the loosen. Shake, shake, shake. No active surveillance, risk of colony decline collapse. So get monitoring. Visual observation on worker bees doesn't cut it, okay? They're very, very good at concealing themselves underneath the abdominal plates. There's a varroa there, okay? So don't just think you can open up the hive and look at your bees and see them. Right? If you do see them, you have a big, big problem. Which bees should you sample? Nurse bees, brood frame, your core brood nest. Varroa breeds in the brood cells. Feeds on the body fat, the fat body of those bees. We'll talk about that. Okay, so mite load, soapy, alcohol wash, drone uncapping, corflutes. We'll skip by. You've seen it. You've seen the videos. Go to varroa.org. Okay, monitoring for success more frequently. We haven't identified it yet, so every 13 weeks. As soon as we hear it's in the region, 3 to 4 week monitoring. Prepare yourselves. Stick through. If you've got concerns, if you have a suspect, reach out to us. Okay? So you've got the biosecurity hotline number, or the email, or you've got our contacts. If you haven't, come and see us. We'll give you a card. What we're doing, so we are preparing for the arrival. We are out there monitoring. Individual apiary surveillance monitoring across the state. We are on the road, we're checking. So we've done good. We haven't found it yet, and we've been out in the middle of NARCAT We've been down in the southeast, we've been up into the hills, we've been up the mid-north, we've done the Riverland numerous times, we've been everywhere. It's been good, but it's, you know, we've got to get out there and keep going. So we've split South Australia into these different regions, and we're basically working from east to west. We're out in the region every month on a large sort of 3 to 4 day trip, and then in between that we've got day trips everywhere. Coming out to see individuals, just at their apiaries at home for a day, we're around the place. We're sampling for baseline as well. So this is what you can do to help us. Active surveillance and monitoring. Baseline virus project, you've got that one up here. This form here. Right now we've identified that when Varroa arrived, it did bring a virus with it. I forgot the name. Rhabdovirus, okay, so that is here. It's identified in low numbers, but we're monitoring further. We want to get a good picture of viruses across the nation. So this is where we come out and we sample bees across South Australia, we send them to the lab. We don't identify you by your name or address, it's just by postcode. So fill that out, we'll come out and monitor. Sentinel Hive Network, if you've got some hives that you're happy for us to monitor regularly, let us know. And Colos, I would highly recommend all of you to jump onto www.colos.au, fill out the survey. It's about identifying colony loss over Australia as a whole, which then helps with data collection and research investigation into that mentors. Support. Workshops, we have 3 more scheduled in South Australia. Dates are coming soon, so watch out for those. That's us. There are numbers, that's our email, we'll give you numbers. Integrated pest management, developing management plans is next. What I want you to do in the meantime before we come back is research, bring out all of those materials from your workshop again, review it, okay? Have a think about it in your minds. When do you have a honey flow? When do you have a brood break, if at all? Bring that information with you next session. Questions?
Just wait for the microphone so that we can get it on the recording.
Perfect.
Are you familiar with the hotbox treatment of Varroa? Yeah, look, with wax moth, I either put my frames through a freezer or I put it in a hot box, 45, 45 degrees for about 80 minutes.
Correct, yep.
But I know in the eastern states now there are a couple of people like Stefan who have imported hot boxes.
Absolutely, yes, yeah.
But they're, I mean, it's only for a small beekeeper, 10 to 20 frames over 2 hours.
Yes, correct, yep.
But I'm just wondering about it and how useful it would be for small beekeepers.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely something that a number of beekeepers are trialling and using. The recent articles have really stirred some interest in that, I think, on the ABC as well. Who's seen that article? Nice article. Some bit of information. Hot boxes are, yes, they're available. They're out there. You're looking at smaller hot boxes around about 4,200 for a smaller one, up to sort of 6'9", 6'5", 6.5. So small to medium size, yeah, sort of 4 to 20 frame boxes. You put the frames in there, you heat treat them for a period of time. Usually it's about 2 to 3 hour treatment period, and then you can put them back, and it basically doesn't kill the brood, but it kills the mite. Interesting, absolutely. Look, as a part of your integrated pest management, yes, possibly. Okay, I couldn't tell you exactly how that will work in its early stages, but it's definitely out there. It's definitely an option. People are definitely using them. So again, you need to look at this as far as, is this going to work for my operation? Can I afford it? Is it is it going to be economically viable for me?
Josh, we've got one more question, but just before we go there, can you please just repeat the Colos survey website? Because someone just showed that, I think maybe it was the wrong web address. Can you just say it again?
Colos, COLOS.au. No .com in it. It's just .au. It's a bit of an odd one, I know.
Hi.
We have a question here. Yes.
Yeah,
How you going?
just following on from the last one.
Yeah.
It's a while ago that I was looking online about the hot box,
Yep.
and I found there are some trials overseas.
Yep.
I don't think in Australia, but I think in New Zealand on not a box where you put your frames, but on heating your hive,
Heating hives up.
and one in particular using solar, which
Okay.
I was super interested in.
Yeah, absolutely.
If there are any, like maybe, I mean, I'd love if there could be a communication with BSSA if there are any studies or
Yes.
availabilities in Australia
Yeah,
for
definitely.
such thing.
Yeah, definitely. Look, we'll take that on board and we'll see if we can get some more information out to you. The big thing about this is, you know, we hear it every time, and I'm exactly the same, right? I don't want to use chemicals. Simple as that. I want my honey to be chemical free. I want my bees to be chemical free. I love my bees, right? I don't want to use chemicals. So anything I can do and everything I can do to reduce that mite load, okay, reduce the mite load to the point where I'm not having impacts on the colony. The bees are managing themselves mechanically via, you know, integrated pest management, all these other tools that I have. Like, I'm a doctor, I've got a toolkit, right? I want as many tools in there as possible. Chemicals, yes, maybe, but they're at the bottom of the toolkit, all right? So there are all sorts of different things that we can do to help reduce mite load. And we'll definitely take it on if we can find out some more information, but research, absolutely. Yeah, Bob?
Josh, what monitoring in New South Wales is perhaps underway with respect to feral colonies?
Yes, certainly. There was some studies done on Western Sydney University. So Western Sydney University has had large numbers of feral populations, and they've been monitored and people have been watching them. As far as anything that's official and recorded at this stage, nothing yet that we have had access to. But we know that through just some more sort of citizen science and university science that they'll be looking at it, they have seen those drops as far as the colonies are basically non-existent. Some of the New South Wales team were out in Sydney over the last weekend, and something that she came back and one of them said to us is she did not see one bee at all. A weekend in Sydney. Through the gardens, around friends, no bees. No bees. So clearly they're seeing a big decline in feral wild bee populations. There are studies. I've just been a part of a genetic study in South Australia on tracing genetics of bees, looking at wild bees, specifically versus managed colony bees, and looking at the genetic tracing lines of those two. We've been working with some scientists from South America and Europe as well on that one. So hopefully some data's coming out of that shortly, but it's still in just basically building stages of those. So nothing more than that at the moment. But I know that there are various projects. AgriFutures had a couple up their sleeve at the moment that are happening with some various grants and entomologists and so forth.
We've got time for one more question.
One more. Okay, where are we going? Here we go.
Yeah, I had a look at the heat map in New South Wales, and I was actually quite surprised because there's big infestations obviously in the metropolitan areas.
Yep.
But once you get out into the bush a bit, there's lots of sort of circumstances where varroa was detected and then it hasn't been detected for quite a period of time. I was just wondering how you interpret that.
Yeah, certainly. So based on communications with our varroa team across the nation, it's simply down to the fact that beekeepers aren't reporting. And this is, it's quite sad, but we can only get the data. The heat map is only as valuable as the data that's being put into it. So if no data is getting, it's not being fed, then it's really not much. So majority of that is simply down to people not inputting. So I can only stress to you, I can stand here until I'm blue in the face, when we do get the heat map, so important that really work with us, work with the industry, work with your beekeeper buddies, your friends, the beekeepers next to you now. Input, get that information in there, because then we're going to have a more accurate heat map. And I'd love to be able to say SA's heat map's the greatest.
And Josh, it's as important to report not having Varroa as it is to report
Absolutely, in the heat map.
isn't it? Yeah.
We don't tell us now that it's negative. We don't want to know. We only want to know now if you're finding suspect. But when the heat map launches, absolutely, positive, negatives. Yep. And we'll be able to down to 16-week monitoring, all sorts of cool, funky stuff. So, absolutely, yes.
I'm sure we could have Josh talking for another hour and he wouldn't be exhausted with all the information that is available. But that's all we have time for tonight. Please thank Josh. Josh, we have for you Society Honey, sought after, Varroa free, chemical free, pure honey, both a jar green and also raw honey. This is from our hives at Tonsley, from our training apiary at Tonsley. And we know with you guys travelling so widely, helping with monitoring all over, we thought we'd give you a couple of Hessian bags for fuel for your smokers.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you again.
Thank you. Brilliant. We will definitely put this to you. And Menigi next week.
There you go.
That's going on the kitchen bench.
It's pretty good honey, and I think, while we've got honey that's chemical free and certainly no Varroa has been detected in our hives, our honey is still very much sought after. Let's hope it stays that way. So thank you again, and that was just scratching the surface. We know that there's a large learning curve ahead for all of us with Varroa on the horizon, and the more we can arm ourselves with information, education, and at the risk of repeating everything that Josh said, surveillance, just monitoring, doing your washes. And if you don't know how to do the wash, go and check on varroa.org.au. There's little video clips that show you how to do that. Attend the beekeeping field day this Saturday. We specifically put on 2 sessions with 15 people per session. They both full now. Wow, you've booked while you've been here tonight. Well done. Both those sessions are booked. If you were still thinking you want to book, you'd like to go along, please let myself or Tricia know, or even Bob. We will have a wait list going and we'll get the guys back again, possibly on a Wednesday rather than a Saturday, if that suits some people more. So sorry if you missed out. The afternoon, how many spots in the afternoon? There's still 7 spots available for the 1 p.m. session. The morning session is full at 10 o'clock. 7 spots available for the afternoon session at 1 o'clock if you want to come along to the Tonsley training apiary and get hands-on and see firsthand from the videos how to do things. Barbara? No, it's on Saturday the 15th. It's this Saturday. All right, moving on. Now, Josh and David, you're welcome to stay. I imagine people might have questions for you. So we're just going to move through the rest of the business, and then after the session, if we finish at 9 o'clock on time, then there's still time for you to socialise, to network, to grab something else from the supper table, and to speak to Davida and Josh with your questions. But for now, we just need to deal with some business, and that is the minutes of the November meeting. It's been a long time since the November meeting. That was the last meeting that was recorded with minutes, because in the December meeting we had a Christmas party, if you remember, so there's no minutes for that. But just to give, we do need to accept the November minutes, but just to give you a reminder of what was covered. In the November minutes we had Adrian Harvey and videos. We hear that night, they were introduced. We conferred life membership on Barbara Horwood. Belinda Hanson-Kenny was the guest speaker that night, talking about honey labelling. The Constitution and Handbook Review Subcommittee gave us an update on how far they are, and the Health and Safety Subcommittee gave us an update. They also had the adrenaline injector pump kits that are now available at our apiaries and with our mentoring groups. Were launched that night, and they had a display of those injector pumps and test ones that you could have a play with, if you remember. And then we also had Phil Marshall come and talk to us and give us a bit of an update on the newly established Queen Breeders Association, the South Australian arm of that, which is a subsidiary of the Australian Queen Breeders ACBA, I think. Phil, I'm butchering it.
Yes, you are. So the local group is just called the Queen Breeders Cooperative.
The Queen Breeders Cooperative, I do apologise, yes. And I will talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but for now we'll just move on to the next slide, please, which is our financial summary report. Usually this is a monthly report, but because we didn't have a meeting that was able to present the report in December and we didn't have a meeting in January, this is a report that covers both of those months. So this is a financial summary with an opening bank balance on the 1st of December of $56,629, and we had income in December and January of $3,500, and I've got a bit of a note here on what that income was. Sorry, just bear with me. 1,265 was membership fees, also 1,305 from the sale of the sugar. Thank you to those of you who took up that offer. I hope it helped your bees. Sale of other equipment, the box jigs, $200, and field day sales as well as honey sales at the meeting, $760, which gave us a total income over December. It was mainly December, not much happened in January, of $3,500. Our expenses over December and January were quite high, over $5,000, and that was because we paid our annual insurance, the society insurance on public and product liability, and personal accident for our volunteers, and combined that is about, the public and product liability is $821, personal and accident insurance $659 for the year. That's the society's insurance, not to be confused with member insurance. We also paid Wild Apricot 2 months fees. You might recall we're going on a month-by-month basis with Wild Apricot until we transition to Member Jungle, which for those of you who are new tonight, it sounds like gobbledygook, but Wild Apricot is the current member database that sits behind our web interface, and we are changing to Member Jungle, which is the new membership database. Wild Apricot's a Canadian company, Member Jungle is an Australian company. In our AGM last year, our members voted in favour of the transition. So that brings me to the next big expense. In January, we had to pay the setup fee for Member Jungle, which was $2,500, and we also had to pay for our Zoom subscription, our annual Zoom subscription, which is related to very soon we'll be live streaming. In fact, we're doing a trial run tonight, live streaming this on a closed channel, just to make sure that it works, because hopefully from next month we will be launching live streaming of our meetings for anyone who can't get to the meeting, particularly our far outlying members. So we're certainly moving in the right direction with that. Are there any questions about the finances? If you want to see the full profit and loss statement and so on, I believe there's copies on the back table. If you're interested, or if they're not there, please request a copy. We want to be transparent with our finances, and anyone is able to see that. Once we are on Member Jungle, it will be on the website. Anna?
Sorry, Mike, just about the minutes, they were moved and carried.
Right, we didn't move and carry the minutes. As you can see, I've been on holiday, so thank you, Anna. So just moving back to the minutes, the November minutes, I would like to propose that we move those minutes. Can I please have Barbara? So Barbara Chapman has moved the minutes. Is there anyone willing to second those minutes from November? So we have Simon Harvey has seconded. Kat, you got that? Okay, thank you. All in favour of those minutes being accepted? And that is carried. Thank you. Back to the financial statements. Any questions about the financial summary I've provided? Okay, moving on. We now have a number of announcements. And the very first one is an appeal for help. As you all know, Simon runs around like a headless chicken on meeting nights trying to get all of our AV to work, and we are looking for someone who doesn't necessarily have to have IT experience or be an IT guru, but someone who's willing to help Simon with setup and getting the cameras set up and getting our AV equipment happening, because Simon's actually not going to be here for the April meeting. He's actually going on holidays, which he's quite entitled to do, and we need someone else who will be able to do that when Simon's not here. So if that's something that you think you can help with, can you please see Simon? Simon, give a big wave. That is Simon. Please make sure you see Simon, and he will give you the rundown on what is needed. It's just about the setup, really. It's not about any of the technical stuff behind the scenes to make it look pretty and to, take my wrinkles away and drop 10 kilos. And it's not that big, although that would be nice. But anyway, if you can help, please see Simon. Next one, we've spoken about the field day already tonight. Oh. There's slides, yeah? Are they moving? Yeah. There's the can you help? Okay, next one. We have spoken about the field day already. As I mentioned before, we've got 7 spots available in the 1 o'clock session on Saturday. Take advantage of it. These guys are not going to be around forever. So while they're here, while we've got them at our fingertips and able to support and help, come along. You're always going to learn something. So book one of those 7 spots that are available this Saturday, the 15th. The first session in the morning from 10 a.m. is already fully booked, so you can't go to that one. There's only the spots available for the 1 p.m. session. It is at our apiary at Tonsley. For those of you who are new tonight, if you've got no idea where that is, Bob, can you please stand up? Bob is our apiary manager, and Bob will be able to tell you how to get to Salgar Avenue down at Tonsley where our hives are kept. All right? Thank you, Bob. All right, moving on. You heard me absolutely butcher the Queen Breeders Cooperative title 2 minutes ago. I apologise, Phil. Just want to say again that the co-op is up and running again. They do meet fortnightly via Zoom. Phil coordinates it, but it's open to anyone who's interested in rearing gamma queens, or in queen rearing in general, to join the fortnightly Zoom meeting. Phil, can you please just stand up so everyone can see who you are? If you think that this is something you're interested in, make sure you stay after the meeting and catch Phil and give him your details so that he can lock you in to the Zoom meeting so that you can get the invitations. But it's open to anyone who's interested. They're going to continue to meet for the rest of February and March on a fortnightly basis, then break over autumn and winter and resume again in September. Anything else you want to say about that, Phil?
No, look, the group is a real mix of people with different experiences in beekeeping. So someone who's just interested, and also someone who might have done queen rearing for quite a while will find value in it. Yeah.
Thank you. Some of the topics they've already covered is queen cell production, how to graft, nutrition in your hive if you're rearing queens, and selective breeding. They're also closely watching and following the Australian Queen Breeders
Association. There's a national association which has some research apiaries in New South Wales. We liaise with them for some technical advice. They're particularly pursuing a trait of varroa-sensitive hygienic behaviour in bees. We can't do that at this stage because we don't have varroa to test our queens with. Our turn will come.
There you go. So it's a very interesting and dynamic little group. If you're interested, hop on, see Phil after the meeting over a cup of coffee, give him your details. He'll link you into the Zoom invitation. Next slide, please. This is a very attractive slide, but it's a little bit sad because this is what our library looks like at the moment. It's missing a few of its resources. There's a couple of people, 10 overdues. It's missing 10 teeth, our library. There's 10 books that are overdue. Some have been overdue for several years. We've been extremely lenient But Anna and Simon are pulling their hair out because they have to prepare the asset register for our financial year end, and our numbers aren't stacking up because books are not in the library where they should be. So I'm doing an appeal to you, please. There'll be no questions asked. If you have a book that belongs to the BSSA library, please bring it back. We'll gladly accept it back. If you love it so much that you want to hang on to it, let us know and we'll invoice you for the replacement value of that book. But it is a borrowed book from the BSSA library, the operative word being borrowed. So please return all overdue library books as soon as you can. Thank you. Next slide, which is about the library update. We continually update our library. For those of you who are new here for the first time tonight, Aphrodite is sitting over there as the acting librarian tonight. We have a bunch of resources, I think over 300 books, is it, Aphrodite? In our library, all about all sorts of topics on beekeeping. You are welcome if you're a member of the society. It's one of the benefits of being a member to access those books for free loan for a month at a time. And then you bring it back and then you can borrow others. So and we're continually updating the library with whatever's new out there, including what's available right now. We've got 2 new books in the library. The first one is called The Honeybee Solution to Varroa by Steve Riley, who's quite a renowned UK beekeeper. Now, I do have to just put a caveat on there that this is in the UK where Varroa is established. We don't have those massive reinfestation rates in the UK. They've got established Varroa, and therefore a lot of this is working better than it will when it gets to us in the first stages. But what he has done, and I've got some notes on what that book's about. I think I lost my page. Done. Okay. But from memory, it's about practical steps to identify and select for Varroa-sensitive hygiene, Varroa-resistant traits in bees. So, you know, knowledge is power. So if you're interested in that, how in the UK they are specifically identifying and selecting for Varroa-resistant traits in their bees, that'll be a good read. The second book, Honeybees, A Natural and Less Natural History. This comes from the Netherlands, from the author Jacques van Alphen. And this is about the evolution, the ecology and the behaviour of honeybees. So it's more of a research type book. So those are the 2 latest books in the library. And at this point, that brings us to officially to the end of the official business of the evening. All that remains is for our raffle to be drawn, and then we're pretty much on time because we're actually a little bit ahead of time. Please make sure that you connect with those people that were pointed out. If you want to book to the field day, if you want to get involved with the Queen Breeders Cooperative, if you want to speak to any of the Varroa development officers, make sure that you don't rush off after the meeting. We've specifically ended the meeting early to make sure that networking can happen and you can still go home at the normal time, so please make sure you do that. I'm going to hand over to Tricia in a minute to draw the raffle, but Josh has something to say.
Just giving everyone a heads up, if you're interested, we've brought all of the props that we normally have at the training workshops. So we have Varroa here this evening in alcohol, in ethanol. So if you want to come over and just review and have another look, you're welcome to, as well as we've got all of the bits and pieces.
Thank you. I actually recognise this one because for those of you who don't know, I was together with some other members of our society fortunate to be selected as one of the trainers in South Australia in the Varroa development workshops, along with Josh and David and others. And this is actually really creepy. This is a 2-scale version of a Varroa mite. 2-scale. So if a bee was the size of me, the size of an adult human, this would be the size of the one Varroa mite on me. So imagine that. It boggles your mind, doesn't it? Imagine being infested with 20 or 50 or 300 of these things. So yeah, some interesting props. Do come and have a look. I'm going to hand over to you, Tricia.
Thank you, Ron. It's disgusting. Really is quite disgusting. Well, lovely meeting. Welcome to those of you that are new. It's always lovely to see new people coming in, and thank you, Josh and David, for giving us an update on what's happening with the Varroa mite. Yeah, it's a worry, but I think we're trying as much as we can to get as much information as we can. So, you got another one?
I'm so sorry to hijack you, Tricia, but there's someone present here tonight called Chris. It's a lady. Chris, where are you? Chris?
Christine.
No, Chris who gave me this little note
Right.
about bees using the possum box. That's Chris right at the back. There's bees in the possum box in her yard, and she's looking for someone. This is at Tusmore. She's looking for someone who's willing to go and remove those bees. Chris, can you just stand up or wave? That is Chris. So if you think you can assist Chris, who's right at the back in the white top, with the removal of these bees in her bird box in Tusmore, please see Chris for more information.
Thank you, Mon. So we have some really interesting raffle prizes tonight, beginning with Philomena. Now, Phil, who just talked about the queen breeders, has brought his mated queen in for anyone that is interested in having a mated queen. We called her Philomena because that's good for Phil Philomena. Mated and marked Italian queen, 28-day catch, and her value was $60. So thank you very much for bringing that one in today. And she's brought some friends with her. So yeah, she's a bit of a bonus there. So that's a wonderful prize. Natalie has brought in some tups, which is good. We have a wax embedder and a mystery gift that was left over from the Christmas breakup. We have a hive tool. One of our members makes beautiful bits and pieces, pre-workout yoga, karma oils and things like that, with another mystery gift, another mystery prezi there, a little book, a little notebook with bees on it, and some bee socks. So, Josh, would you be able to come and help with, or David? No, you've done enough, Josh. You sit down. Well, we'll have enough of you. Okay, David, come on up. You go.
Well, I guess.
All right. So if you could just put.
Yes.
All right.
Who we have here?
Grant Gottlieb, L3 Grey. Here we go. There we go.
Do you need a queen, Grant?
Yes.
Oh, you do?
I'll have a brain. Of course he does.
Oh, Philomena's gone. L3.
I can't say no.
No. There you go. Here we go. And make sure you call her Philomena.
Yes. She's lovely.
Oh, good. I have friends like
And it's
a doohickey.
Yeah, on the 14th.
Valentine's Day.
So,
You're going to give it to your wife?
no, no.
She, on your bonding. So, thank you, Phil. She has a home. Right, next one, David. Anne Smith. Anne Smith, Orange U9. Where are you, Anne? Here she comes. Thank you. Keep going, David. Sorry. What would you like, Anne?
I'm sure you
The yellow bee socks. Okay, thank you, Anne.
B71, blue, jolly.
Jolie. Ah, nice surprise.
Yeah, shake that tin.
Oh, yes, I'm doing my best.
Practice for the.
So we'll put these over here. Buckets. Good.
Thanks for the honey that we
Pink,
have.
B70.
Steve White.
Ah,
He- he knew he was going to win something tonight. All right. Thank you, Steve. Hive tool. Always good to get the hive tool. And
L9, Greg.
Shane. I think Shane is sitting next to me at the back.
Wonderful.
Well done.
That's right.
Yes, and a special
Sit next to the right.
the mystery guest is here.
Thank you.
Oh, there we go, Shane. Well, we've got the mystery gift, the wax embedder, some nice cosmetics, and another mystery gift. And you can have that as well. Would you like the wax embedder? Oh, you've got one. Oh, there we go. Thanks, Jay.
Alrighty, next one, green, Q15, Andrew B.
Andrew, that'll be
There
you.
you go, Andrew.
Lovely. You'll take him there. Oh, wonderful.
No green.
Get in bed.
Y57. Oh, Bob here.
Oh.
Yeah, Bob.
It's difficult for me to say those out. I really want to. The beauty pack.
You want to get it right. That's not the prize that you want.
You could write all your bits and pieces in the Beetle. Oh, here's one for the beauty pack. And the mystery gift from Christmas. And one more.
Pink V76 button.
Yes, Chris Flatton.
There you go.
You can write all your variety information on that. Oh, you did want that. That's great. Wonderful. All right. So, thank you, everybody.